2 weeks ago, I finished the Leadville 100 trail race. It was a challenge, to say the least. I'm sure it is for everyone that does it. I'm no different. I've been asked, though, by a handful of people to provide some detail on my journey and how I completed the race. It was a redemption year in the sense that I DNF'd to 2023's race, made it to the top of hope before timing out, so not even halfway. And then this year, like I said before, I finished, so very proud of that. I didn't finish with a lot of time left on the clock. I finished in the golden hour. I finished 29 hours and about 52 minutes. So I took all the time I could possibly use, basically, to finish, and that was part of the plan. And I knew going into that race, judging by the first year, that everything had to go my way for the most part to finish, and that the race itself would be at the top of my capabilities. So I thought this video would hopefully help somebody that feels the same, feels they're getting into the Leadville 100 and it's a stretch for them. Clearly it's a stretch for a lot of people. Yeah, the year I DNF'd, there was a 43% finish rate. This year, I think it was just over 50%, which is fairly typical. So basically half the people don't finish this race. So I thought, you know what, there's a lot of pros out there. There's a lot of amazing runners out there that provide great content, probably much better videos. But I thought I would give a very simple video and simple direction on what worked for me. It's just what worked for me. Take what you can from it. I know everyone's strategy is different and certain things might not work for certain people. So I will just share what worked for me. And I feel like it's nothing earth-shattering, but I think when you put these different strategies and keys to success together, you have a real shot at finishing what is one of the most difficult races out there with the Leadville 100. And hopefully this video will help some of you. So as I thought about my strategy to finishing the race, I broke it down into 5 parts. Part 1, training. Shocker. So training. This is going to be different for everybody. So I'm just going to highlight some of the things that I thought were critical to do to finish the Leadville 100 in your training. And again, I'm not going to go into the specifics of certain workouts and things like that. Everyone has their own. I will say a coach is helpful. If you have a coach throughout this process, I did. Team Outpace, is the coaching that I get, and they do a great job. And coaching allows you to stay true to your plan and be accountable to your training, and it's very helpful. You don't have to have coaching, but it helped me for sure. But getting into training, what was my mileage? Anywhere from 50 to 80 miles a week leading up to the race. I think there's a range there depending on the quality of miles. I'm from Minnesota, so a lot of them were flat miles. I did find a ski hill, and I would do a lot of up and down the ski runs, short little ski runs, being in Minnesota. And that was helpful, so you've got to find those if you're a flatlander like me. I never really got to 100 miles, I don't think. I think I topped out around 80, which is a lot, I think. And I had, again, 60 to 80 miles. So the one thing I will say, 2 things that I think are critical for training: weight training. For sure, you've got to do weight training for your legs. Again, I won't tell you specific lifts and exercises, but you've got to have those strong legs going up and over Hope Pass and back. The weight training is going to make a big difference on top of just running alone. That was number 1. Number 2, this is what I did. So I did that differently from year 1 to year 2 for my race, from my DNF to my finish. The second thing was racing at altitude. Again, being a flatlander, I knew last year when I DNF'd, I was experiencing everything kind of for the first time. I even did the running camp, and I don't think that was enough. It wasn't challenging enough. It really wasn't. The run camp it's not easy, but it's not overly difficult either. So I would recommend a true race. Run camp's great, you could do it, it'll help, but a race. So I did the Silver Heels 50 to prepare. I would definitely recommend somewhere between 25 and 50 miles if you can do it. Again, that worked for me. It made a huge difference for when I showed up in Leadville and I'd already ran a 50 miler at altitude. There's lots of different options. Silver Heels is a great one, Silver Rush, there's lots of options. So those are the big things with training. And you got to stick to it. You got to find time to do it. You have a lot of two-a-days and things like that, but find a plan, stick with it, coach or not, worked for me, but that was my key to training. That was the first part. The second part, family. You gotta have buy-in from the family, right? And I've got 4 kids, married, and they were so supportive, and that was critical, because if you don't have the support of your family or your significant other, or maybe it's your parents or friends or whatever, it makes it really easy to skip trainings. It makes it really easy to not give it your all and make excuses why you should skip things, or skip that long run or second run or the weight training or whatever. So having that family buy-in was huge, as well as, they talk about the why. For me, I won't get into that, but it's deep rooted within my family, and that was critical for me when I was in those dark moments during the race. That was important. So family buy-in, that support, and definitely a solid why you're doing this. You'll want to tap into that during the race. Okay. The third thing, crew. I didn't even know how important crew was until Leadville 100. I didn't fully understand how important it is to have a good crew. I was so lucky to have the most amazing crew during my journey. They were helpful in prep. I trained with them a couple times, so I was lucky to have them local, and then bounced off ideas for the strategy pre-race. They helped me with nutrition, which I'll get to in a second. They were just they were a critical part of my finish. I put something on Facebook and Instagram, and one of them was that it's Leadville 100 is a team sport. It absolutely is, especially for the middle of the packer like me, someone who needs all the time on the clock for the Leadville, and not a pro, not an elite, decent runner, but the crew is going to help you keep track of time, help you make sure you're eating, all those things that I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're going to be prepared for. But for me, a crew was important. Can you do without a crew? Of course. But you might not be watching me on this video if you feel like you're a strong enough runner and you don't need things like that. But for a middle of the packer, someone like me that's going to need all the time on the clock to finish the Leadville 100, crew was critical. And one other thing I'll say about the crew that was so important, I didn't understand because my first year I DNF'd and I didn't make it to the end of the race, is having someone running with me when you kind of have that brain fog and you're 80 and 90 miles in, and they're helping you with splits and time. I mean, I ran up to a lot of my cutoffs. They were close, 15, 20 minutes. And if it wasn't for my crew keeping me on point and running, telling me to run, let's run for the next half mile or whatever that is, I probably would have missed a cutoff. I probably would have DNF'd. I'm sure I would have. And in fact, we passed a bunch of people, some of which didn't have a pacer. That's what I meant by crew. Didn't have a pacer, which you get, in the back half of the race. And I was passing them, and we were just, maybe a couple miles from the next cutoff, the next aid station, and they weren't running. And I don't know if they had just kind of given up or if they weren't doing the math in their head. And I know they DNF'd, and they were so close to making that next cutoff. And with Leadville, if you are in that middle, which means you're going to finish, but you're at that 50 percentile like I am, you just have to make every cutoff. And all of a sudden, you're running down the boulevard and you finish. But your pacers are gonna help you do that. So they were critical to my success.
Woo! Hey, Kyle! Good work, good work.
Good job.
You're doing awesome.
You're looking good.
You made a great amount of time. You're in a really good place.
You felt good? Dan was a little iffy, but it felt good. And you hit the restroom.
They were right back here. Back there.
Give me your best.
Yep.
The fourth thing, 4 out of 5 here, nutrition. So anyone who's done these races before, I'm sure you're well versed on nutrition. I just want to reinforce that. Again, your plan is your plan. A couple things that really worked for me is just make sure you're dialed in on the pre-race stuff, the pre-meal, carb loading, all those things, if that's something you do. And then the one thing I'll add that was really important for me to my race success was having a contingency plan for nutrition. So as your stomach goes or you don't feel quite right, what's your plan for that? You know, what's your next food? You've got your plan A for nutrition. What's your plan B and your plan C? I was lucky enough I did not get sick. I felt nauseous and I ate, forced food down. And again, I think everyone probably watching this understands nutrition, so I won't get into that. But for me, having the contingency plan of what I'm going to eat when I'm not hungry, or if I would have gotten sick, what happens if I get sick? Because that can quickly lead to a DNF. So have those contingencies for nutrition. Lastly, race day plan. There are lots of resources out there for pacing and all those things, and I did all of them. Pacing was important. I kept to it. My crew and then later in the race, my pacers helped me stick to it, and that was really important. But it's like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan to get punched in the mouth, right? And that's this race, right? That's the Leadville 100. You have a plan. It's not going to quite go the way you want it to go, and that's okay. Stick with it. The one story I had is that, you go up and over Hope Pass, and having poles for me, I didn't use poles until Hope Pass, up and over. I left my poles in Winfield, meaning the hardest, in my opinion, the hardest climb is going back up and over Hope, and I didn't have poles. I thought my race was over, but I stuck to my plan, and I got up and over without poles. My legs were toast, but I stuck to it, but I was behind. And I was behind my pace, and it was because of this error on my end, and I won't get into the details, but I stuck with my plan, and I tried to make up some time on the way down, and I did. And having an idea of what I wanted to accomplish, but being okay with knowing that something was going to come up that was probably going to impact my plan, maybe ruin my plan, but I was going to stick to doing what I need to do, which is keep moving forward. I made that next cutoff in Twin Lakes. I didn't make it by a lot, but I made it by a little bit, and I was still in the race. I said with my pacers, I have a chip and a chair, and that's all you need with this race. Is if you make those cutoffs, they are tight, but they're doable. So even if you make it by a couple minutes, as long as you're still moving at a decent clip, you'll make the next one, and then you'll make the next one. And if you have to break that race up into parts like I did, maybe it was 5 minutes, maybe it was 20 minutes ahead of cutoff. That's what you have to do, and that's what I did. And what a special finish, what a special race. It's definitely, I've done a lot of different races. It wasn't even my first 100, but Leadville is so special, and I really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful race. It is a very difficult race. Hardest thing I've ever done, hardest race I've ever done, but they say it changes you when you finish. I don't know if I'm changed, but I'm certainly proud of the finish, and I'm proud of coming back after DNFing and finishing the following year. I really enjoyed it. So I hope this video is helpful for those of you out there that might be like me, kind of that middle of the pack person that needs to do all the things right, needs to have a plan and a strategy, and just know that if you take your time and you do some of these things, these are my keys to success. Some of these might work for you. You probably add some of your own. You're going to do it too, and you're going to love it. Walking down the boulevard with your family, your friends, your crew, there's nothing like it. So good luck, and thanks for listening.